right, students, there was that awkward silence, and now I am ready to go. I trust you're having a good morning today. I hope you had a great day yesterday, and your academics this morning have been good. We are at Tuesday, and we are progressing right along in basic mathematics, and I look forward to today. We're going to go ahead and pray, and then we're going to start quickly with some review. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I love you and I thank you for the day you've given to us. I pray that you would help us. Lord, I pray that even though we're at a distance, you'd help me to be clear. Help these students to understand what is being taught. And Lord, help the preparation that has gone into it stream forward, and even the problems that we'll be going over. I pray that it be helpful as we do these things. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, look forward to our time together today. We are going to go ahead and start with some review. I have some charts here I'd like to go over from yesterday. So if you will say these along with me, we'll just say them once together, okay? Make sure you're saying them there at home, okay? Here we go. Excuse me, here we go. 1 foot equals 12 inches. 1 yard equals 3 feet. 1 yard equals 36 inches. 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. Did you make flashcards last night? I want to encourage you, if you don't know these, make some flashcards. They will help you. I promise. It always helps with the memorization. Now that was our English system of measurement. This is our metric system. Sometimes we say metric in efforts of helping us remember it's based on the meter. And here we go. 1 meter equals 10 decimeters. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. 10 meters equals 1 decameter. 100 meters equals 1 hectometer. 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer. I hope those are ringing a bell from our lesson yesterday, what we did. Now we want to do some of our flashcards. We did these yesterday, and I hope they'll be a help to you again today. So we're going to go through these. You could just say the answer. You don't have to say 1 foot equals 12 inches, so on and so forth. You just say the answer when you see it, and then I'll repeat the answer, verifying that you saw it, okay? Are you ready? And we begin. 12, very good. 3. 36, 5,280, 1,760, 10, 100, 1,000, 1,000, 100, 10, 1/10, very good. 1/100th, 1/1000th, 10, 100, and 1,000. I hope you did well on those. I know that was a quick drill of some of those flashcards, but you really want to make sure that you know those. Make some flashcards if you don't. That yellow box that we studied yesterday, you really want to make sure that you're familiar with that. All right, go ahead and open your textbooks to page 110. I'd like to go over some of the homework that you did yesterday night. Page 110, you did numbers 1 through 18 on the sharpening skills, and so we'd like to go over those answers now. So I'm going to give you the answers. Some of them I'll explain in greater detail. Some of them I'll just give you the answers. But let me reassure you, if you have questions about a specific answer from this sharpening skill, and maybe you don't know the answer, or why or how I came to that answer, just send me an email or send Mrs. Morrison an email, and we'll make sure we communicate with you so that we can explain through that problem, okay? So I know that checking homework's a little bit different via virtual, but we want to make sure that you do have those right answers, okay? So let's go through these 1 through 9. Number 1 is 3. 2 is 100. 3 is 100. 4 is 1,000. Now let me give you a hint on number 4, 7, and 6. On number 4, you're going from decimeters to hectometers. So when you start on your chart, even up above, and you start at the DM, you'll notice you're starting with 1 HM. So start on your HM, and you're moving 3 places to the right. So you're multiplying by 10, by 10, by 10, or basically adding 3 zeros there to equal 1,000. Number 5 is 36 inches. Number 6 is 10 centimeters. Same thing, you're starting with 1 decimeter. So start with the 1 on the DM, and you go 1 to the right to CM. That, add a 0, you've got 10. Number 7, you're starting with 1 DAM or decameter. So you start in your column with 1 decameter, and then you're going all the way over to DM, which is 2 columns. Therefore, you multiply by 10, multiply by 10. 10 times 10, of course, is 100 on number 7. Number 8 is 1,000. And number 9 is 12 inches equals 1 foot. I hope you were able to do all of those without looking. If not, make sure you make some flashcards. That'll help you out in memorizing that yellow box. Number 10, the prime factors of 24. Of course, you can do a factor tree or your inverted box factor, but 24 factors down into 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Again, 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Number 11, multiply 6.3 by 100. You're just going to take that decimal and move it 2 places to your right. So it goes 63, and then you're going to annex a 0, and that's going to be 630. 630. Remember, when multiplying by powers of 10, you just move it over as many zeros as you see and annex when necessary. Number 12, find the gross profit. Instantly, when we think gross profit, we got to think formula. And the gross profit formula is GP equals, or gross profit equals, selling price minus cost, okay? Selling price minus cost. And in this case, the selling price was $13.81. The cost was $6.52. You subtract those two, and your final gross profit is $7.29. Number 13, find the percent of games won if 6 games were won and 14 were lost. All that information is important because we need to know 2 things. We need to know, number 1, how many games we won. Number 2, we need to know how many total games we played. We won 6, and they lost 14, which means that's a total of 6 plus 14 is 20. So 6 divided by 20, which reduces down to 3 over 10, which of course is 30%. Number 14, write the greatest common factor of 33 and 44. Well, if you think about the common factors of those, of course, you could reduce those all the way down to prime factors. 33 is 3 and 11. 44 is 2, 2, and 11. And the greatest common factor of both of those is, of course, going to be 11. So 11 is the answer there for number 14. Number 15 is a little tricky. If you'll remember, you do not actually get the common denominator. It's virtually difficult and somewhat impossible, except through multiplication, to get that common denominator. So what we do is we get the common numerator. And when you get the common numerator, you go, is 28. So you multiply 7 times 4 to get 28. You multiply 15 times 4. And basically the fractions that you come up with, and I'm going to write those fractions on the board here. I don't have a lot of room. As you can tell, we've got our lesson on here, but I'll write it right here. So 7/15 becomes 28 over 60. And then 28 over 57 becomes 28 over 57, stays 28 over 57 because it is 28 already, I'm sorry. And then 14 over 29 becomes 28 over, I'm sorry, yeah, that's right, 28 over 58. So now what we want to do is we want to see which one takes up the most. Well, 28 takes the least of 60 as compared to 58 and 57, which means 7/15 is going to be the least. So that's going to be our first one is 7/15. So this will be number 1. And then when we look at this, 28 takes less of 57 than 58 does 58, then 28 does a 57. So our next least is actually going to be 14 over 29, and then 28 over 57 is going to be the greatest, okay? So just a reminder there on number 15. Number 16, you're multiplying. So you've got to turn 3 7/8% into a decimal. Don't forget, 7/8% is 8.875. And so when we add that to 3, we're going to move the decimal over and end up having 0.03875. Take 0.03875, multiply by $16,300, and you should have $631.63. Number 17, you're dividing 16 by 12.5%. That's going to be 16 divided by 0.125, and your final answer is going to be 128. And number 18, 42 is what percent of 48? Well, in this case, you're actually going to divide 42 by 48. Well, the nice thing about that is it has some common factors. So we can actually reduce that by 6, the factor of 6, 42 divided by 6 is 7. 48 divided by 6 is 8. So you actually end up with 7/8. And then 7/8, you already know, is a decimal 0.875. Turn that into a percent by moving the decimal over 2 places. You have 87.5% for number 18. So again, I know that was a quick run through of those, but I hope that you've got those. If you have any questions about that, email me or email Miss Morrison, and we'll be sure to cover those answers for you. At this time, if we were in class, we would take a speed test number 16. That is on your lesson plan. I want to encourage you, your proctor, to do that. 3 minutes is the time limit you have for that. And so proctors, if you'll make sure that you proctor that speed test sometime today, and then when you're done proctoring that, if you'll just snap a photo of that and send that to straight to Mrs. Morrison, and Mrs. Morrison will grade those and make sure that she files those away. So if you'll do that, that will be great today. So today we are introducing page 111. Go ahead and turn your textbooks to page 111. We are introducing 6.3, converting measures in the English system. We learned about 2 systems. We learned about the English system and we learned about the metric system. Today we're talking about how do we convert measures. That is from one measurement to another within the English system. Tomorrow we'll deal with the metric system. So how do we do that? How do we go from yards to feet, or feet to yards, or inches to yards, or miles to feet? How do we convert all the way inside of this English measure system? Because we have very specific measurements, we can convert very specifically, and that is something that is very nice with regard to our standard measurements. And so today, we're going to talk about 2 ways of measuring. We're going to talk about measuring going from something larger to something smaller, and then we're going to go from something smaller to something larger. And what do we do in order to find that? Well, basically, there are 3 major steps. I think those 3 major steps are finding out, are you going from large to small or small to large? And based on that, you're either going to multiply or divide. And then you're finally just going to make sure your answer makes sense, okay? And we'll double check in how we're going to do that. But I want to start off with 2 illustrations that are on the board here, okay? Our first illustration is right here. It says 5 1/4 yard equals how many inches? 5 1/4 yard equals how many inches? Well, the first thing that we need to determine is we need to know, are we going from a unit that is larger to smaller, or are we going from a unit that is smaller to larger? Well, think about it. Compare a yard to an inch. Which one is bigger? If you said yard, you were absolutely correct, and I hope you know that because an inch is very small and a yard is very big comparatively. So a yard is bigger, so we're actually going from something bigger, and maybe we should use the word larger, but larger to smaller. Class, when we go from smaller to larger, notice this, or excuse me, from larger to smaller, notice this, larger unit to smaller, we're going to multiply, okay? That's a key point there we need to know. Larger unit to smaller unit, we're going to multiply. Now, something I remembered since I was a little one is this, okay? You're going from something larger to something smaller, so you multiply. Here's your x, okay? This is an x to show you multiplication, okay? Let's try that. You do it with me. It'll help you out. It'll help you remember. Larger to smaller, multiply, okay? So let's do that. We're going to take 5 1/4 yard, and we're going to multiply it by what? Well, of course, you know that you've got to figure out, and class, I have done this completely incorrect, okay? I've done it completely incorrect. The example should actually say feet, and I apologize for that. It should say feet, okay? But still, larger to smaller, so we're going to multiply. You need to figure out what is my conversion factor. Well, what's a conversion factor? Conversion factor is how many smaller units in one larger unit. Well, guess what? We have how many smaller units, feet, in one larger unit? How many feet are in a yard? 3 feet. So our conversion factor is 3. So we're going to take 5 1/4 yard, and we're going to multiply it by 3. So I can turn this into a fraction, or I can turn it into a decimal. And in this case, I'm going to take 5 1/4 yard times 3. And then I'm going to take 4 times 5 is 20. And 20 plus 1 is 21 over 4 times 3. And then I'm going to multiply that out as well. 1 times 3 is 6. And 2 times 3 is 6 divided by 4. 4 goes into 66. And that's going to go in there once with 2 left over. And that's going to go in there 6 with 2 left over. That's 2/4. Reduce that to 1/2. You have 16 1/2 feet. Now the question is, the last question is, does this make sense? And the answer is yes, it does in fact make sense, because I'm going from something bigger to smaller, so in order for the smaller to be equal to the bigger, it's got to have more, it's got to be larger than the smaller one. And so I'm going from yards to feet, and so I should have a bigger answer than I originally started out with. So in fact, it does make sense, okay? Now, there's a second scenario, a second situation, and that is this. If I have 38 inches, that's something smaller, and I'm going to something larger, going from inches to feet. Well, when I'm going from something smaller to something larger, okay, this is smaller, and this is larger. So when I'm going from smaller to larger, in this case, I'm going to divide. And here's how I can remember that, okay? So remember, large to small, multiply. Watch this. Small to large, divide. Do I look like a division sign? Okay, maybe not. But it's easier because the division sign, of course, you know, has the line going in the middle, okay? So large to small, multiply. Small to large, divide. Okay, well in this case we're going from small to large, so we are in fact going to divide. So I need to know my conversion factor, remember, and that is how many smaller units are in one large. Well, how many smaller inches are in 1 foot? 12, that's exactly correct. So I need to divide 38 by 12. Now you could do your standard division, or you could reduce it. In this case, we'll put 12 into 38. And of course, that goes 3 times, minus 36, that equals 2. We have 3 2/12, which equals 3 1/6 foot. Now the question is, does it make sense? Remember, the smaller unit should always be a larger number, and so it does make sense for this to actually be smaller. Okay, so those are two particular illustrations of the principle. At this time, I'd like you to pause the video and read page 111 right there at the top, as well as look over the examples. Okay, you've now pushed play. We're moving on in our lesson. Look at page 111. A very simple illustration, and I want to go ahead and erase these, and I want to keep in the middle, because we're going to need that later. And we'll keep the words on the side. Notice the two illustrations. They give us 5 yards equals 15 feet. Well, I should say feet, okay? How do we figure that out, okay? We're going from something large to small, we multiply. Conversion factor, how many feet in a yard? 3. So 5 times 3 equals, that's right, 15 feet. Pretty easy now that you're getting a little bit of experience with it, huh? So let's do the next one. It says 54 inches equals how many feet? Okay, well, we're going from something smaller to something larger. Small to large, we divide. And we're going to divide by the conversion factor. Well, how many smaller units are in the larger unit? 12, that's right, 12 inches in 1 foot. So 54 divided by 12, we're going to put 12 into 54. I believe it goes 4 times, minus 48, that is 6. So we have 4 6/12, or 4 1/2, or 4.5 feet. Are you understanding a little bit more how to convert? 3 steps. Number 1, am I going from small to large, or am I going from large to small? Based on that answer, do I multiply or do I divide? And then, does it make sense? Is it reasonable? I got smaller here. I got bigger here. That makes sense. So with that in mind, I want to do a couple of them with you in the practice problems 1 through 12. So stick along with me, and then I'll assign you to do a few of them as well, okay? So I am going to erase all of this now that we have really become experienced after 4 problems, huh? but this will give me a lot more space, and we can do some of these in a row. So let's start with number 1. 32 yards equals how many feet? Okay, class, answer these as I go. Yard to feet, we're going from larger to smaller, large to small. We're going to multiply. So we know we're going to have 32 times something. Well, how many smaller are in the larger unit? That's right, 3 feet in 1 yard. So we're going to multiply by 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. Is it reasonable? Sure is. So number 1 is 96 feet. Let's skip over to number 3. We have 72 inches equals how many feet? Okay, let's look at this. 72 inches, we're going from inches to feet, small to large, so we divide. And how many inches are in a foot? It's 12, so we're going to divide 72 by 12. And if you know anything, you know that that equals 6, okay? Equal. 72 divided by 12 equals 6, and so your answer is 6 feet. Let's get to number 4. Here's a fun one. 1/2 foot equals how many inches? Now, you may let me get my periods there. You already know this because you know what half a foot is in inches, but let's do it mathematically to make sure we all know what we're doing. So we're going from feet to inches. That's from large to small, so we're going to multiply. That's exactly correct. And there are how many inches in a foot? 12. Very good. So we're going to take 1/2 times 12 over 1. Cancel out our 2. Cancel out our 2 and the 12, which goes 6. We have 6 over 1, which equals 6 inches. And so, yes, logically, we knew half of a foot was 6 inches, but now mathematically, we have found out what that correct answer is as well. Let's move on to I'm just doing some sporadic ones, and I'm going to have you work individually on yours. Look at number 8. Number 8 says 3/4 mile equals how many yards? Okay, well, let's think. Mile versus yard. We're going from mile, which is larger, to yard, which is smaller. So we're going to multiply. Very good. And in this case, we're going to multiply by how many yards are in a mile. Do you know that? Do you have it memorized? Go, go, go. What is it? 1,760. Very good. So we're going to take 3/4 times 1,760 over 1. Now I'm doing some short math in my head, and when I do that, I know that this cancels out very easily. So I'm going to cancel 4 into that. 4 goes into 17 4 times with 1 left over. 4 goes into 16 4 times, and 4 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry a 1. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. You have 1,320 yards. I hope that's what you got as you were working that out on number 8. Want to do a couple more with you, and then I'll give you some time to do it on your own. Number 9. Notice this says point. Watch that. 0.75 feet equals how many inches? 0.75 feet, 3/4 feet equals how many inches? Well, I'm going from feet to inches, which means I'm going from large to small, so I'm going to multiply. That's exactly correct. Now, I'm going to change this into a fraction just so I don't have to deal with decimals. You could multiply out a decimal, but I'm going to change it to fractions because I know 0.75 equals 3/4. So I'm going to go 3/4 here, and I'm going to multiply it by what conversion factor? 12, that's right, because 12 inches equals 1 foot. So this is going to be times 12 over 1. 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 12 3. 3 times 3, class, is 9. Very good. So 9 inches is the correct answer there for number 9. And one more that I'm going to do with you is number 10. This one is 90 inches equals how many yards? Okay, we're going from inches small to yards bigger, so we divide. That's exactly correct. So 90 inches into, and how many smaller inches are in a larger yard? 36 inches in a yard. So we're actually going to divide 90 by 36. Now you could probably take some factors out of there, but I think we'll just go ahead and divide. You could put 3 into there, and 3 goes into 90 30 times and goes in here 12. You could reduce this down by 2. 2 goes into 30 15 times. 2 goes into 12 6 times. You could even reduce it by 3 if you like. 3 goes into 15 5 times, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. So you basically have 5 halves, and if you need to divide that out, you can. 2 goes into 5 2 times, minus 4 is 1. You have 2 and 1/2 yards. And does it make sense? Yes, because it should be smaller than your original number. And again, you could have divided just like this, just as easily if you'd like. I just kept reducing. It was a little bit quicker, I think, for me to keep doing that. But whichever way you would like to do it is okay. So what I'd like for you to do now, and this is going to take a few moments, I'd like for you to pause the video, and I'd like for you to do number 2, 5, 6, 7, 11, and 12. All right, so you are probably pushing play now because you're done with those. And I'm going to give you the answers for those, and you make sure that your answer is correct. If your answer is not correct, I would like for you to try to figure out why it's not correct. And if you can't figure out why it's not correct, let me or Mrs. Morrison know, and we'll walk you through that. Number 2, you're going from miles to yards. And so you're going to multiply, because there are 1,760 yards in a mile, and you're going from large to small, so multiply 1,760 times 5. You should have gotten 8,800. Number 5, you're going from feet to inches. Large to small, multiply. 28 times 12 is 336 inches. Number 6, you're going from large to small, so multiply 7 times, and how many feet are in a mile? It's 5,280 times 7, 36,960 feet. Are you realizing so far why it's nice to have memorized those measurements that we in that yellow box? Yeah, it's very helpful. Number 7, 1/2 mile equals how many feet? You're going from a mile, which is bigger or larger, to feet, which is smaller, so we're going to multiply. That's right. We're going to multiply 1/2 times, well, how many feet are in a mile? 5,280. So half of 5,280 should be 2,640 for number 7. Number 11, same thing. You're going from yards to inches. You're going from yard, which is larger, to inch, which is smaller. So multiply 1/2 times, how many inches are in a yard? 36. 1/2 times 36 is 18 inches. And number 12, you've got 0.6 miles equals how many feet, okay? This one's a little tricky, I suppose, with the decimal, but 0.6 miles equals how many feet? You're going from miles, which is larger, to feet, which is smaller, so we're going to multiply, that's right. And how many feet, the smaller unit, are there in the larger unit, a mile? 5,280. So 5,280 times 0.6 is going to equal 3,168 feet. All right, 3,168 feet. How'd you do? You got to do about 5 problems on your own. We did 9 together. Hopefully this is getting in your mind. Remember, it's not up on the board anymore. Do it with me. Large to small. Majority of this, and most of what we're going to be doing here is going to be problem solving. Okay, problem solving. So look at number 1, and let's do some of these together. The tallest player on Jefferson High's basketball team is 6 1/2 feet. 6 1/2 feet. How many inches taller than 50 inches is he? There's 2 steps to this problem. The first step is converting 6 1/2 feet to inches. So we're going to put 6 1/2 feet equals how many inches? Well, we're going from feet to inches, so we're going from large to small, so we multiply. That's exactly right. So we're going to take 6 1/2, and there are 12 inches in 1 foot, times 12. Turn this into an improper fraction. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13 over 2, times 12 over 1. That cancels. 6, and 3 times 6 is 18. Carry 1. 1 times 6 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So you have 70 inches is what this equals, but that's not your final answer. Notice what the question says. How many inches taller than 50 inches is he? Well, if he's 78, and they want to know how many inches taller than 50 he is, we got to subtract. Minus 50 inches, and that's going to equal 28 inches. So 28 inches is the appropriate answer there for number 1. Number 2, Pikes Peak is 14,110 feet above sea level. To the nearest tenth of a mile, how many miles above sea level is it? Oh, this should be interesting. Okay, so They want to the nearest tenth of a mile. We have it in feet right now, so we need to go from feet to miles. So let's take 14, so this is number 2, 14,110 feet equals how many miles? This is what we need to know. So we're going from feet, which is smaller, to miles, which is larger, so we're going to divide, that's right. And what are we going to divide by? Well, how many feet, the smaller, are in the larger mile? 5,280. So we're actually going to take 5,280 and divide it into 14,110. Boy, oh boy. Well, we know this is not going to go in there 3 times, because 5 times 3 is 15. And we know we're at least going to start here, and we're probably going to annex some zeros. And I'll bring my decimal up. So we know it's not 3, so the next 5 into 14 can't go 3, so 5's got to be 2. So let's put a 2 here. So 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 8 is 16, carry your 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And 2 times 5 is 10. So let's subtract these. We've got 0. We're going to borrow. 11 minus 6 is 5. We're going to borrow from here. 10 minus 5 is 5. And 13 minus 10 is 3. So we're left with 3,550. Now we're going to bring down our other 0, and we're going to use our 5. 5 goes into 35 7 times. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if we put a 7 there, we're going to be too big. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 6 right here, and 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 8 is 48, carry your 4. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16, carry your 1. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 1 is 31. Now subtract these. 0. We're going to borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. We're going to borrow. 14 minus 6 is 8. 4 minus 1 is 3. We're done there. Now let's bring down one more 0. And let's see. You say, why do you have to do another one, Mr. McDonald? Well, the reason I have to is because I've got to round this to the nearest tenth. Well, I have to go to the 100th in order to determine if that's going to stay a 6 or go up, okay, to a 7. Now, we just found out that 5 times 6, watch this, I'm going to give you a trick. 5 times 6, or this number times 6 is 31,000. So even if it's 6, or this very well could be 7, but either way, if we put a 6 here, or we put a 7 here, the 6 or the 7 is going to make the 6 do what? Go up. So you don't even have to keep going. So 2.7 is going to be the appropriate answer for number 2. All right, flip to page 112. Let's do number 3 together. 3 says, John Brown and his wife, Emily, traveled all the way down the Mississippi River on a riverboat. They started at its source in Minnesota and went 2,348 miles to the Gulf of Mexico. How many feet less than 20 million did he travel? Oh, this should be fun. So we're actually starting with 2,348 miles, and they want us to go to feet, and then we have one more step to finish our problem. So let's get to it. So it says, first of all, how many miles are to feet? Or how many feet are 2,348? So we're going from miles, which is larger, to feet, which is smaller. So we're going to multiply. That's right. And how many feet are in a mile? That's right. 5,280. So we're going to have to multiply all of this. So we're going to take 2,348 times 5,280. Sorry, my brain stopped there for a moment, okay? So we need to multiply these numbers together. I want you to pause the video and go ahead and do that, and I'll write the answer after you're done. Okay, you push play, which means you have the answer. So your final answer for that number should actually be 12,397,440. Now, the question actually says, though, how many feet less than 20 million did they travel? So we actually now need to take 20 million and we need to subtract 12,397,440,000. 0 minus 0 is 0. We got to go all the way over here and borrow 9, 9, 9, 9, 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 4 is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. 9 minus 9 is 0. 9 minus 3 is 6. 9 minus 2 is 7. Your answer is 7 million, I want to double check, 602,560 feet less. Woo! What a problem we have done. I am impressed with your work. I hope all that worked out for you as it did for me. But me, oh my, that was a problem, wasn't it? Okay, let's move to number 4. I want to do these word problems with you because there's so much when we're dealing with these word problems. So we're going to go ahead and erase all these because we've got quite a few more to do in our time together. We don't have too much time left together. Don't forget to get that speed test done and send that picture over to Mrs. Morrison. All right, we are on number 4. Mount Everest at 29,035 feet is the highest mountain in the world. Mount Aconcagua at 22,834 feet is the highest mountain in the Western Hemisphere. Mount Everest is how many yards more than a mile? Okay, so it says Mount Everest is how many yards more than a mile higher than Mount Aconcagua. We got to be careful with this one. First thing we need to do is go ahead and split the difference in feet. So 29,035 feet minus 22,834 feet, okay? So this is what we're going to start with for number 4. Let's go ahead and get the difference because that's what they're asking for to begin with. So 29,035 minus 22,834. 5 minus 4 is 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. Borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. 8 minus 2 is 6. So we have 6,201. That's how many feet there are in the difference. Now, it says how many more yards. So now we need to take this and we need to find out how many yards it is. Well, I'm going from feet, which is smaller, to yards, which is larger, so I divide. That's right. And I'm going to divide by 3 feet in 1 yard. So I'm going to put 3 into 6,201. 3 goes into 6 twice. With 0 minus 6 is 0. Bring down my 2. That goes in there 0. Minus 0. Bring down my 2 and bring down my 0. 3 goes into 26 times. 6 times 3 is 18. I hope you can see this. I'm sorry. I'll keep it up here. 20 minus 18 is 2. Bring your 1 down. 3 goes into 21 7 times. So it's actually 2,067 yards. But that's not the end yet. Notice the question says, how many yards more than a mile higher? Well, how many yards are in a mile? 1,760. So we do need to subtract 1,760 from this. 7 minus 0 is 7. 6 minus 6 is 0. 10 minus 7 is 3. So it's actually 307 yards. And I believe they said higher. Woo! What a problem that was as well, huh? And these keep getting a little bit more difficult as we go. Number 5. Storm waves on the ocean may rise higher than 40 feet. 40 feet is what percent more than 10 1/3 yards? Find the answer to the nearest whole percent. Okay, so it says, first of all, that they want it in feet. 40 feet is what percent more than 10 1/3 yards. So we're going to, first of all, need to convert 10 1/3 yards into feet. So we're going to start with 10 1/3 yard, and we're going to put those into feet. Okay, well, we're going from something large to something small, so we're going to multiply, and we're going to take 10 1/3 yard and multiply it by 3 feet in 1 yard. 3 times 10 is 30, plus 1 is 31 over 3, and that's going to be times 3 over 1. Those cancel. This actually equals 31 feet. So we have 31 feet here is how many 10 1/3 yards is. Now it says find what 40 feet is what percent more than this, which is 31. So I've got to subtract those. So 40 feet minus 31 feet equals, we know it's 9 feet more, but they want to know what percent that is. And so I've got to put that, as you know, over the difference of 31. So I'm going to put 9 over 31, and I'm actually going to divide that to find the percent. So let's divide 9 by 31. So we're going to put 31 into 9 here, 0.000. And 31 doesn't go into 9, but it does go into 90, and I know it can't go 3 times, so I'm going to put a 2 here. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 10 minus 2 is 8, 8 minus 6 is 2, can't go in there, so I'm going to bring down a 0. And we're going to try 9. 9 times 1 would be 9. 9 times 3 is 27, so that's going to work out. So we're going to put a 9 here. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Subtract that, that's a 1. Bring down a 0. 31 is going to go into 10 0 times. And then we're going to bring down another 0. 31 is going to go into 100 3 times. Now, the reason I did that was to determine if the 0 is going to stay, because they want it to the 10th of a percent. Oh, they want it to the nearest whole percent. So the 0, as we know, that's going to go over twice. The 0 is going to make the 9 stay the same. So this answer is actually 29%, and that's going to be more. So what do you think so far? What do you think? That's a lot of work, isn't it, for these word problems? I'm going to do number 6 with you. This will be the last one I'll do with you, and I'd like you to try number 7 and 8 for homework tonight. Number 6, how many feet high will a stack of 2-inch dictionaries be if the stack contains 83 dictionaries? Express the answer as a mixed number. Okay, so how many feet will a stack of 2-inch dictionaries be? Well, that means we eventually need to go to feet. Right now we have 2 inches for each dictionary, and we have 83 dictionaries. To define the total number of inches, we've got to go, and this is number 6, we've got to say 83 times 2, because each one is 2, and there's 83 of them. 3 times 2 is 6. 8 times 2 is 16. So we have a total of 166 inches high is what it is. And they want to know how many feet high that is. So now all I have to do is convert this to feet. Inches, smaller. Feet, larger. Divide. And what am I going to divide by? 12, the conversion factor. So 12 goes into 166, and I believe they said express the answer as a mixed number. 12 goes into 16 once, minus 12 is 4. Bring down my 6. I believe 12 goes into 46 3 times. 3 times 12 is 36, and that is going to be 10. I'm going to put that over my 12, which is going to be 13 and 10 twelfths. Of course, if I reduce that, it becomes 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 12 6 times. So it is actually 13 and 5/6 feet. What do you think? What do you think so far? 3 major steps. Am I going from large to small or small to large? Once I've decided that, am I going to multiply or am I going to divide? And does it sound reasonable? Great attention today. I hope you learned a lot. Here is what your homework assignment is. I would like you to work on numbers 7 and 8. Try 7 and 8. You'll need a ruler for that. So be careful there. Make sure you use a ruler. Number 7 and number 8 on word problems. And then I'd like you to do sharpening skills 1 through 15. Again, if you have any questions over any of that or anything in today's lesson, please email me or email Mrs. Morrison. That was a lot of information, I know, but 2 basic processes. Let's do it together and we'll be done. Go large to small, multiply. Small to large, divide. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.